Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Sherlock Holmes 2, A Game of Shadows. Now this movie is directed by Ritchie, the man who brought us classics such as Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Rock and Rolla, even the first Sherlock Holmes. Now this movie stars Robert Downey Jr., Jude with Noomi, Rapace, Gerard Harris, and Rachel McAdams. Because I loved the first one, I was definitely going to see this second one. And an added bonus was some people, if they saw Mission Impossible in IMAX, they got to see a 6-minute opening of Dark Knight Rises. Well, in my theater, instead we have a trailer for The Dark Knight Rises right in front of Sherlock Holmes. And as far as the trailer goes for that, I'll discuss that at the end of this video. But going into Sherlock Holmes, I'm not one of those people that gets really excited about a movie and sees it, and then regardless of whether it was a good movie or a bad movie, claims it to be awesome and amazing, because I'm not that kind of person. I'm a huge Green Lantern fan, but I wasn't that impressed with Green Lantern. So I'm going to tell you how it is with this movie, and I'm also going to tell you how it is with The Dark Knight Rises when it comes out. More on that later. So, Sherlock Holmes 2. Now, the plot of this one starts where the first one left off. It left a clue as to who the enemy or opponent of Sherlock Holmes is going to be in this one, and this time it's Professor James Moriarty. And unlike Lord Blackwood in the first one, this enemy is a lot more cunning and lethal, and he's really intelligent. He puts on the good, enemy, the good opponent face, because there's a lot of times where Sherlock Holmes is like, I'm not sure if I can beat this guy, and it's not until, you meet Sherlock Holmes' brother in the movie, played by Stephen Fry, that you realize, okay, Sherlock Holmes is not the smartest man in the world, so he might have a challenge on his hands. And because this movie was a lot darker and a lot more violent than the first one, Sherlock Holmes had some trouble, and this Dr. Moriarty guy wasn't somebody to mess around with, because if he wanted you dead, or if he wanted somebody to get scared, he would do just that. As far as the acting goes, Robert Downey Jr., he's one of a kind. He nailed the role of Sherlock Holmes just like he did in the first one. Jude Law, great as Watson. I just love the way these guys play off each other. Like, just like in Harry Potter between Harry and Ron, and Lord of the Rings between Samwise and Frodo, the two male leads have such a chemistry that, I'm sure there's videos on YouTube of some, homosexual, fan-made stuff. But anyways, that's not a bad thing, because Jude Law and Robert Downey Jr. have such chemistry in this movie that it's really good to see them back on screen together. Noomi Rapace was actually in the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. She's in this movie. Her role was much like Rachel McAdams' role in the first one, where if she wasn't there, you didn't really miss her, but her character had to be there to kind of move the story along. Then you have Gerard Harris, who I couldn't quite put my finger on where he was from, but the only thing that comes to mind was he was the guy in the wheelchair in Resident Evil Apocalypse, the second one. He was that guy, but he played a great villain in this movie, because unlike a lot of the villains this year, they've disappointed me because they've all been showy and, hey, look, I'm big and bad, and then, they really have nothing to offer. So he did a really good job as the villain. He was very cunning, and he was very soft-spoken, and that was great, because he wasn't all loud, and he wasn't all, showy. He was pretty much like, I'm smart as hell, and if I want something bad to happen to you, it's going to happen to you. And that was so great about his character and the role that he played. I liked how in this movie, like the first movie, Ritchie did the slow-motion shots and did the inner monologue shots of Sherlock Holmes when he's fighting or when he's thinking about a situation. Like, for instance, whenever he walks into a room and the camera pans over, if he's looking at a calculator, it shows the calculator. And when he's looking at stuff and observing the room, they show what he's looking at, so the audience can keep up with Sherlock Holmes, because if the movie was just him observing and looking around, it'd be all fast-paced, and people would get confused and lost very easily. And I like how they would reference stuff. They'd have flashbacks to where if Sherlock Holmes is explaining something, like he did at the end of the first one, to the bad guy, of how he, put the pieces together, they would flash back to the time when he was looking at this clock, or looking at this fireplace or what have you. And I really like that. I also liked how the fight scenes were done in slow motion, and we got the inner monologues of what he was planning to do. And there's a really cool scene at the end. I won't tell you what happens with him and Sherlock Holmes and the bad guy when they both have inner monologues. You'll see. And I liked how this movie was also a lot bigger and grander in scale. Like in the first one, it seemed like it was just set in London, whereas this one, they're going all over the place going after the bad guy. You know, they're taking trains and, in Sherlock Holmes' case, small ponies all over the place. And the runtime was 2 hours, 20 minutes, but it really didn't drag on. It didn't make you tiresome, so it worked. And there's really nothing else I can say about this movie. The music was great. The movie was surprisingly funny. I actually laughed out loud in a bunch of scenes just because they caught me off guard, because the witty banter between Sherlock Holmes and Watson were great, and just the movie surprised me. I liked it a lot more than I thought it was going to. So from rating of a 1 to a 5, I'm going to give this a 4. So, you got nothing else to see this Christmas. If you're not going to see Dragon Tattoo, and if you're not going to see Mission Impossible, go see Sherlock Holmes. It's worth it. Till next time, guys. See ya. Alright, now here's my little discussion about the trailer for The Dark Knight Rises. My honest initial thoughts of the trailer. The movie looks very convoluted, and I'm almost afraid that this movie, though I trust Christopher Nolan, I'm afraid this movie is going to possibly make the mistake that Spider-Man 3 did, and they're going to try to introduce all these characters or all these movie stars, and they're going to try to, again, do what Spider-Man 3 did and say, okay, let's give this person screen time. Let's give this person screen time. Oh, we can't overshadow this character, so let's give this character even more screen time. If Christopher Nolan wants to do it right, he can hire big-name celebrities to play roles, but just because you have Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the movie, I don't want him to be on screen for a long period of time, unless he's going to play a vital character. Matthew Modine's also in the movie. That surprised me. You know, then of course you're going to have Christian Bale, Tom Hardy as Bane, Michael Caine, I believe Lucius Fox is in this one, and Anne Hathaway is Selena Kyle, and 2 other characters that I know about that I don't know if many people know about it, but I'm not going to tell you who they are in case it might spoil or ruin something for you. So, again, the trailer looks very convoluted. Until I see the prologue right now, I'm going to see The Dark Knight Rises, but, you know, I don't want to say this, but I don't want to go into the movie going, oh my gosh, it's going to be awesome, it's going to be amazing. I don't want to be one of those people. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't want to go into it going, okay, it's going to be amazing no matter what. It's going to be amazing no matter what. For right now, I'm going to see it, but I'm not incredibly excited about it. I'm honestly more excited for the Avengers coming out. So, will Christopher Nolan's 3rd movie in this trilogy be up to the standard that is the hype? We'll see.